I'll be honest, I didn't expect to ever talk about this. Most people online only hear stories about bad managers from someone who already walked away, already cooled off, already found a punchline. I'm not telling this from the finish line. I'm telling it from the part where my hands were still shaking from exhaustion, where I still believed loyalty could fix a broken system, where I thought working harder would eventually make someone notice the truth. Before everything went downhill, I was the guy people called the reliable one. Senior developer, unofficial project lead, the one who knew every dependency, every deadline, every risk the client was about to discover before my boss even glanced at the roadmap. I wasn't special, I just cared. And caring in the wrong environment becomes the heaviest weight you can lift. Our company wasn't huge, maybe 120 people, but the project I was on was enormous. Multi-year contract, seven-figure budget, layers of legacy code stacked like geological sediment. We were understaffed, overcommitted, and permanently 2 sprints behind schedule. Every Friday ended in just one more fix, and every Monday began with a new list of promises my boss had made after 2 beers and zero planning. He liked to think of himself as a visionary, the type who paces around conference rooms talking about alignment and momentum. The truth was easier. He talked big, avoided responsibility, and took credit for whatever he hadn't personally broken. He was charismatic in the way a man can be charismatic, right up until you need him to actually do something. And then there was his best hire, a guy he brought in 6 months ago. Loud, charming, always hyped up like a walking motivational poster. He was the kind of coworker who greeted everyone with a high five but couldn't merge a pull request without 3 conflicts and a small spiritual crisis. My boss adored him, praised him, defended him, said things like, "He's got heart, and he just needs guidance," meaning my guidance every time something caught fire behind him. I didn't hate the guy. I hated the system that let him coast while the rest of us cleaned up the mess. And I hated that my boss looked at me like I was the problem for not applauding loudly enough. For months, I carried the project on muscle memory. Late nights, early mornings, endless calls with the client, a corporate team that, to their credit, stayed polite, even when they were panicking. I learned to translate my boss's promises into realistic timelines. I learned to smooth things over when the best hire missed another deadline or broke another environment. I learned to swallow frustration because the alternative was letting the project collapse, and I couldn't let that happen. Not yet. The day things started to shift, nothing dramatic happened. No shouting match, no meltdown. Just a single moment that felt off. We had a demo with the client, a big one, the kind where slides get polished and metrics get massaged. My boss was supposed to lead it. He showed up 7 minutes late, smelling faintly of whatever bar he'd been in the night before. Hair styled too perfectly for a man who got 3 hours of sleep. "Let's keep this high level," he whispered to me as he sat down, meaning cover for me. I did. I walked the client through the progress, the blockers, the deliverables. I answered questions he should have been answering. I kept the room calm while he nodded along like a man listening to a podcast he didn't choose. When the call ended, he clapped me on the shoulder. "Great work, man. You really shine when the pressure's on." And then to the team, "You see? That's leadership." He wasn't talking about himself ironically. He genuinely believed he had led something. Still, I told myself it wasn't worth getting annoyed. Everyone has off days. Everyone slips. Everyone needs support sometimes. I kept giving him the benefit of the doubt, long past the point where it cost me sleep. But later that week, something in me cracked. Not loudly, just a thin internal sound, like ice under your feet, spreading into a web of fine lines. We were in the open office reviewing tasks for the sprint. He leaned back, eyes half on his laptop, and said, "Some of these tasks keep getting overcomplicated. We need to stop wasting time on details that don't matter." He wasn't looking at me, but everyone else was. Details that don't matter. Like error handling, like unit tests, Like a broken integration the best hire swore he'd fixed but never actually touched. I swallowed the comment. Not because I agreed, but because pushing back in front of the team would only make things worse. I thought he'd talk to me privately later, maybe explain himself, maybe admit he'd been frustrated. He didn't. He acted like nothing happened. For the next few days, I kept moving, writing code, leading stand-ups, patching issues no one else saw in time. On the surface, everything was stable, but underneath, I could feel something shifting. Not in him, but in me. And it wasn't anger, not yet. It was something quieter, something colder. By the end of the week, I realized I was holding the project together, without any belief that things would get better. And that's when I understood the truth people don't talk about. Burnout isn't loud. It doesn't crash. It dissolves you slowly until the part of you that cared starts watching from a distance. That Friday, as I packed up my laptop, I caught my reflection in the dark window. Tired, wired, and unsure when I had last eaten something that wasn't from a vending machine. I stood there thinking, maybe, just maybe, the worst was already behind me. I had no idea the line my boss was about to draw, or how quickly I would walk across it. I came in Monday already tired, the kind of tired that doesn't come from lack of sleep, but from holding up something that's already collapsing. I told myself I'd get through the morning stand-up, fix a few tickets, survive the week. No confrontations, no drama, just work. But the universe has great comedic timing. We were 10 minutes into stand-up when the best hire casually mentioned he couldn't finish the payment integration because the documentation was unclear. I had rewritten that documentation myself, step by step, idiot-proof, with examples. He hadn't read it. I knew he hadn't read it. But before I could say a word, my boss exhaled sharply, like he'd been waiting for this exact moment. "This is what I mean," he said, pinching the bridge of his nose. "We need less complexity. Some of us are getting lost in the weeds." Again, not looking at me. Again, everyone else looking at me. I felt heat rise in the back of my neck. Not shame. Insult. The quiet, unpleasant kind. I kept my voice even. The integration broke because the last patch introduced a regression. I flagged it Friday. It's still unresolved. He waved a hand, dismissing the words midair. "Let's not get defensive. We're a team." The best hire nodded solemnly, like he was the one carrying us all. Half the team stared at the floor, pretending to check their notes. No one wanted the smoke. I didn't blame them. After stand-up, I caught up with my boss privately. "Look," I said, keeping my tone careful, "I need clearer boundaries. I'm covering work that's not mine, and the client is getting frustrated at mixed messages. We need consistency." He didn't even look up from his phone. "You worry too much. The client loves us." "The client loves results," I corrected, "and right now they're not getting them." He finally looked at me, annoyed, almost offended. "We're fine," he said. "You just need to loosen up." That phrase stuck under my skin. Loosen up. Like I was the one making the job harder. Like being responsible was some kind of personality flaw. But that was just the beginning. By Wednesday, the client had escalated a chain of issues, all tied directly to tasks the best hire had marked as complete. They weren't complete. Some weren't even started. I wrote a detailed report, attached screenshots, timestamps, commit history, standard procedure. My boss didn't read it. He skimmed the first paragraph, then turned to me. "Just patch it. You're the one who understands this stuff." "I understand it because I'm the one cleaning it up," I said. He rolled his eyes. "You love being the hero. Don't pretend you don't." That was the moment something in my chest flipped. Not snapped, not burst, just quietly rotated 90 degrees. Like a door hinge shifting from wear into a new, irreversible position. Friday arrived already soaked in tension. We had a client call that afternoon, a big one, the kind that decides budgets and renewals. The best hire was supposed to present the progress on his module. My boss hyped him up all morning. "He's got this," he kept saying. "You'll see." He didn't have it. 3 minutes into the demo, the screen froze, then crashed, then rebooted into an error page so catastrophic it looked like the system had personally offended the server. The client asked, very calmly, "What exactly are we looking at?" The best hire stammered something about environment issues. My boss jumped in, laughing nervously. "We've been dealing with some sabotage. Setbacks. Sorry, slip of the tongue." Sabotage. He almost said sabotage, while looking directly at me. Then he said it more clearly. "Some people on the team resist change. They overcomplicate tasks. It's slowing us down." My hands went ice cold. The client went silent in that specific way clients do when they realize something is very wrong and someone is lying to them. I spoke evenly. "The issues you're seeing are tied to incomplete development and untested commits. I've documented all of this. I can walk you through the timeline right now." My boss's eyes widened. Not fear, but anger that I hadn't just quietly eaten the blame again. The best hire looked like a kid caught cheating on a test he didn't study for. The client cleared their throat. "Please share the documentation." I shared it. 15 pages. Dates, logs, screenshots, everything. Presented without emotion, without accusation, just facts stacked neatly enough that even someone who had never written a line of code would understand. My boss didn't speak for the rest of the call. The client did. "We appreciate your transparency," they said. "It's helpful to know who's been maintaining stability." That silence afterward wasn't awkward. It was revealing. And then, after the call ended, my boss closed his laptop, stood up, and announced to the room, "All right, tough week. We're going out tonight. Drinks on me. My best hire deserves a break." He slapped the best hire on the back like he'd just won Employee of the Month for nearly detonating the project. Then he turned to me, smiling like a man who thought he still had authority. "And if you don't like how I run this project, leave." He didn't laugh. He didn't wink. He meant it. The room went quiet. Someone coughed. Someone else suddenly found their inbox fascinating. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't say a word. I just watched him walk out with his favorite employee, both of them laughing as if the project they'd just endangered wasn't smoldering behind them. That night, something shifted again. But this time, it wasn't internal. Because while they were out partying, I stayed in the office finishing the report for Monday, and I didn't know it yet, but that decision would cost them everything. I didn't go home that night, not because I was trying to prove anything, not because I wanted to be a martyr, but because something in me had finally clicked into place. A different kind of calm, the kind that feels less like exhaustion and more like clarity. I opened a new document and began writing everything down. Decisions, missed deadlines, untested deployments, every promise my boss had made without consulting anyone. Not emotional commentary, just facts, numbers, dates, a version of the truth that didn't need adjectives. While the bar lights flickered over my boss and his best hire, I sat under the blue glow of my monitor and built something he couldn't spin. Accountability. By midnight, the office was empty. Silent except for the hum of the AC. I sent the report to my personal email, not to leak anything, not to escalate yet, just to make sure the truth existed somewhere outside his reach. Then I powered everything down, grabbed my jacket, and walked into the cold air like a man stepping out of a burning building he hadn't realized was on fire. Saturday morning, I woke up with that same strange calm. I made coffee, cleaned the kitchen, opened my laptop, and started applying for jobs. Not angrily, not frantically, just methodically. The way you'd replace a worn tire, not because it blew out, but because you finally noticed the grooves were gone. By noon, a recruiter from a partner company replied. By 3, we were on a call. By 5, they were asking if I'd be open to a role leading a project they were taking over from a different vendor. I knew exactly which vendor. I knew exactly which project. I didn't say yes, not yet. But I also didn't say no. Monday arrived with the kind of tension you can feel in the drywall. My boss avoided eye contact the entire morning. The best hire sat unusually straight in his chair, typing with the seriousness of someone trying to look busy rather than be busy. Then the email came in from the client. We'd like a detailed update from the technical lead today. Please have Grant present. Not my boss, not his favorite. Me. I didn't gloat, I didn't smile, I just replied, happy to, and got to work. My boss hovered behind my desk after lunch. Listen, he said lightly, let's keep today's call positive. The client got spooked Friday, but that's on all of us. I closed the window I was working on and looked at him. Sure, I said. We'll stick to facts. His smile faltered. Facts weren't his native language. The call started at 3 sharp. I walked the client through the updated status, the risks, the dependencies, the deployment plan. Clean, direct. No sugarcoating, no theatrics. At one point, the client asked about the regression that caused the demo failure. Before my boss could speak, I shared the timeline, the task assignment, the missed code review, the untested patch, the warnings I documented. 10 seconds of silence followed. 10 very loud seconds. We appreciate the clarity, the client finally said. This helps us understand what's been happening behind the scenes. My boss forced a laugh. Let's not point fingers. It's not about blame, the client interrupted. It's about trust. That word landed like a hammer. After the call, the client sent a follow-up email, but not to the whole team, only to me. Would you be available to speak privately about long-term planning? I stared at the screen. There it was, the line my boss told me to cross. And on the other side of it, opportunity. I replied with a single sentence. Of course. When I came back from the private call, my boss was pacing by the printers, red-faced, arms folded like a father rehearsing a lecture. What did they want? He demanded. Long-term planning, I said. With you? Yes. That's not how this works, Grant. They go through me. I'm the project manager. I nodded slowly. Then maybe they're asking the wrong person. His jaw tensed. Are you trying to undermine me? No, I said calmly. You asked me to leave if I didn't like how you ran the project. I'm preparing for that. His eyes widened half a second before he spoke, and for once he didn't have a comeback. Just silence. Tight, shaky silence. That night, I finalized my offer with the partner company. Not only were they giving me a raise, they wanted to transition the entire project under their umbrella. The same project my boss claimed to run. The same project he'd been mismanaging for months. All they needed was someone who could actually lead it. Tuesday morning, I walked into the office early, printed every piece of documentation the project would need, organized it, cleaned my desk, cleared my locker. Not dramatic, not emotional, just ready. At 10 a.m., my boss stormed into the team room. We need to talk about the client, he barked. They're acting weird. Someone's giving them the wrong impression, and I need to know who. The best hire looked at me like he expected me to confess to murder. I didn't blink. I gave them the truth, I said simply. My boss's face twisted. You think you're some kind of hero. You think the client actually wants your version of things? I didn't raise my voice. They want results and clarity, and we haven't been giving them either. He stepped closer. You're on thin ice, Grant. I closed my laptop. No, I said. I'm already off it. He didn't understand what that meant. Not yet. But he would. Because 2 hours later, the client sent a message to our executive team. Not to my boss. We'd like to discuss transitioning the project to a different vendor. Grant has been invaluable, and we'd like him to continue in a leadership role. My boss read it, turned pale, looked up at me like the room had tilted sideways. What did you do? He whispered. I stood. I stopped being the guy who protects your mistakes, I said. And I stopped saving people who never wanted saving. His best hire swallowed hard, suddenly very small in his chair. And now? My boss asked. Now, I said quietly. I leave, just like you told me to. He stepped back like I'd shoved him, but I wasn't finished. You wanted freedom from responsibility, I said. Congratulations, it's here. And for the first time since I'd known him, he had nothing to say. They thought I was gone, but I wasn't. Not yet. I still had one more step before the door closed behind me. I didn't make a speech. I didn't slam a door. I didn't even tell the team I was leaving until the paperwork was processed. Some exits deserve fireworks. This one deserved silence. The HR meeting was held in a windowless conference room that always smelled faintly of old coffee and carpet cleaner. I handed over my resignation letter, clean, precise, free of emotion, and watched the HR manager's eyebrows rise slightly as she skimmed it. "You're a key part of this project," she said carefully. "Is there anything we can do to keep you?" "No," I said. "Not anymore." She didn't argue. She'd seen the client email. Everyone had. Word spreads fast when a multi-million-dollar contract starts slipping through fingers. By noon, the company's executives were scrambling. By 3, my boss was summoned upstairs. By 4, I was already deleting my access tokens. He cornered me by the elevators before I could leave. "Just talk to me," he said. There was no confidence in his voice now, no swagger. "We can fix this. I can fix this." I studied him. The man who partied while the project burned, who blamed me for his decisions, who used my loyalty as a buffer for his ego. "You had months to fix it," I said. "I gave you every chance." "This client is huge," he snapped. "If they pull out—" "They're not pulling out," I said. "They're transferring. To the company I just joined. They've already approved the contract." His mouth fell open. Shock, fear, recognition, all in one slow collapse. You can't just—" "You told me to leave if I didn't like how you ran things," I reminded him. "So I did." The elevator opened behind me with a soft ding. I stepped inside. He didn't follow. The doors slid shut before he found anything else to say. My last 2 days were uneventful, peaceful even. I finished documenting the final handoff, cleaned shared folders, labeled architecture diagrams, not because they deserved it, but because I don't do sabotage. I don't need to. Reality was going to sabotage them enough without my help. 2 other developers from the team asked to speak with me privately. Both were exhausted. Both were talented. Both had spent months being drowned by the chaos my boss created. I didn't recruit them. Wouldn't have been ethical, but I answered their questions honestly. A week after I'd left, they submitted their resignations. By the end of the month, the project had transferred fully to my new employer. The client insisted on it. They didn't yell. They didn't threaten. They simply pointed to the months of missed deadlines, the disorganized management, the blame shifting, all the things I'd been holding back with sheer effort, and ended the relationship cleanly. Corporate breakups don't come with tears, just signatures. My old company lost the contract. My boss lost his title. His best hire suddenly didn't have anyone to hide behind. Chaos doesn't need to be loud to be fatal. I later heard from someone in accounting that upper management launched an internal audit. Not because of me, but because losing a flagship client tends to make executives look for root causes. It didn't take long for them to realize most of the problems had roots shaped exactly like my boss's decisions. They reassigned him to a non-leadership role. No direct reports, no big projects, no budget authority. A man who built his identity on being in charge suddenly had nothing to run. Sometimes karma is just someone being forced to live without their favorite delusion. As for his best hire, he lasted another 3 weeks before quitting. He tried to follow me, actually. Applied to my new company, name-dropping the work we'd done together. They sent me his resume. I sent back one sentence. "He is not a fit for a high-responsibility environment." It was the politest version of the truth. My new job, night and day. The first week, my manager asked, "What do you need to do your best work?" No sarcasm, no test, a genuine question. The client invited me to a kickoff meeting where they called my documentation the only reason the transition wasn't a disaster. They treated me like a partner, not a mess janitor. For the first time in years, I closed my laptop at 6 and didn't feel guilty. I started cooking again, sleeping again, existing again. Peace isn't glamorous. It's simple, predictable, earned. On a quiet Friday evening a month after I left, I got a text from an unknown number. "We miss you. He's not doing well." "Are you sure this was the right move?" I didn't reply, not because I was cold, but because the answer didn't belong in a text message. Of course it was the right move. Some people think the satisfying part of a story like this is the downfall of the villain. It isn't. The real satisfaction is waking up one morning, making coffee, opening your laptop, and realizing there is no fight waiting for you. No crisis you didn't create. No person determined to make your job harder than it needs to be. Just work you're good at. People who respect you. A life you're finally allowed to live. My old boss once told me, "If you don't like how I run this project, leave." He thought it was a power move. He thought it shut me down. Turns out, it freed me. Some lines end chapters. That one started a better one.